Hero, a being who possesses power that transcends humans. Heroes go head-to-head against villains, and they are respected by people. In a world filled with heroes, our MC is just a rental hero whose job is to pretend as their doppelganger while they work as a hero, because by using his ability, he can copy any appearance he wants by touching them. About 20 years ago, people with superpower began appearing on Earth, and the world fell into chaos. And to bring order back to society, the government enacted a new law. Ability users who didn't follow the law and chased their own benefit became villains, and the vigilante corps who stopped them became heroes. And among the villains, a villain named Nemesis was the leader of the villain union. Though he thought he was invincible, unexpectedly a hero appeared in their headquarters whose name is Justice. And after a fierce battle, Justice defeated Nemesis, and Justice became the #1 hero in the world. Getting back to our MC, who just got home after working as a rental hero. Even though his job is illegal, he had no choice but to do it, because he wasn't able to go head-to-head against a villain cause of his ability. And as he was getting ready to sleep, someone knocked on his door, and as he opened the door, in front of him was the world's #1 hero, Justice. And our MC Lee Ju-won got frightened because he thought Justice was here to arrest him for faking others' identity. But to his surprise, Justice said he came to hire Lee Ju-won as his doppelganger. And as he revealed his real identity, he also told Lee Jo-won to start from tomorrow and gave him a VIP card. And in the next day, Lee Ju-won went to Union's headquarters where Justice lives. And as he was going to meet Justice, he thought about the difference between him and Justice. While Justice is the one who protects citizens at the front lines, Lee Ju-won is his direct opposite. And Lee Ju-won did not understand why Justice would hire him. And as Lee Ju-won got to Justice's apartment, he saw that Justice was sitting on his couch. And as he was getting the papers ready and went closer to Justice, he noticed that Justice died. And Lee Ju-won started to panic as he saw the world's best hero dead in his couch. And he thought Justice might still be alive and touch Justice. And suddenly his body started to release strange lights and created an explosion, and something happened to Lee Ju-won's body. And as he looked at Justice's dead body, the body seemed to emit some blue light, which is caused by Lee Ju-won's ability. And Lee Ju-won decided to get out of there, because had he stayed there, he might have ended up in a mess. And Lee Ju-won decided to report this to the Heroes Association. And as he was running, he bumped into one of his clients who is also a hero, though Lee Ju-won decided to ask him for help. The hero seemed quite annoyed at Lee Ju-won for spilling his coffee by bumping into him. And then suddenly someone attacked the hero and caused an injury. And it seems to be another villain, though the villain seemed quite formidable. Lee Ju-won realized that the villain in front of them couldn't have killed Justice. And the hero next to Lee Ju-won got quite angry at the villain and began to attack him, though he is a high-ranking hero. He couldn't do much against the villain, and after defeating the hero, the tentacle villain began to attack civilians. Though the civilians were frightened, they had hope that Justice would come and save them. And seeing this, Lee Ju-won understood that Justice won't be coming because he is dead, and the people at the building might get killed by the villain. Though he wanted to help them, he thought that he wouldn't be able to win against the villain. And as he looked to his right, he saw a little girl who was crying. But the villain also heard the little girl's cry and started to attack the little girl. Though Lee Jo-won did tell the girl to run away, she couldn't move because she was very frightened. And as the villain was attacking the girl, Lee Jo-won's body suddenly moved on its own, though he thought he couldn't be of any help. Suddenly his ability got activated, and he transformed himself into the world's #1 hero. And he felt much stronger than ever before, and with his newfound strength he pulled the tentacle of the villain, and it got ripped apart. And when the villain got frightened, Lee Jo-won started to act as Justice and said, "Under the jurisdiction of the Hero-Villain Law Section 1, you shall be punished." And he noticed that his whole body was overwhelming with so much power, which is hard to control. And the villain in front of him regenerated his tentacle and began to attack Lee Jo-won. But strangely enough, the villain's movements felt very slow, and Lee Jo-won realized that it wasn't because the villain got slower, but rather he himself got much faster. Then he sprinted towards the villain and punched him in the face and grabbed one of his tentacles and threw him to the wall. Even though he used a little bit of his strength, the villain almost got defeated. and Lee Jo-won thought of how amazing his newly found powers were, and what would happen if he didn't hold back. And as the villain got back on his feet, Lee Jo-won was ready to take him down. But unexpectedly, he lost his strength because he couldn't control the transformation properly. And when the villain went to attack Lee Jo-won, suddenly the villain got attacked by an yellow lightning, and it was another hero from the unions, and she misunderstood Lee Jo-won for Justice and started to talk about how great he was, and she thought Justice drew the villain's attention so that the others can take him down easily. And as she was telling Justice how great he was, suddenly the villain tried to attack them, but the lightning hero took him down with ease, and as she turns back to where Justice was, Justice had already gotten away. And as she was saying that she wanted an autograph from Justice, another mysterious hero told her to get back to her senses and treat the injured civilians, and she mumbled, "Justice was alive?" as if she already knew that the real Justice had died. And when she looked outside the building, she saw Lee Jo-won, who was running as if his life depended on it. And later that day, as Lee Jo-won got home, he started to destroy the documents which was given to him by Justice. And as he went down to throw the trash out, he thought, who could have killed Justice, and how much stronger had he been to kill the world's #1 hero? And he said, could anyone have seen me transform? Nobody would have seen me, right? And suddenly someone said, I did. And when Lee Jo-won turned back, nobody was there, and she started to accuse him of destroying the evidence, while Lee Jo-won had no idea where she was. And suddenly she came out of his shadow, and she started to restore the documents that Lee Jo-won destroyed. And after restoring the documents, she asked, you saw Justice dead, didn't you? And started to attack Lee Jo-won because of the fact that he saw Justice's dead body. And Lee Jo-won dodged the first attack, and he thought to himself, if she is the one that killed Justice, he doesn't need to hold back his powers. And then he transformed into Justice and started to dodge all the attacks. And as he was trying to close the distance between them, he lost his footing because he couldn't control the powers properly, and he took some blows and got injured. And she started to talk about how Lee Jo-won is just a worthless copycat, though at first she did think that he was fearless to act as Justice, and then she started to attack again. Though Lee Jo-won did lose most of his strength, he did not give up, and with the remaining strength, he dug up a piece of concrete and blocked her attack. Then he went for a counterattack, but unfortunately she dodged it. But after getting his momentum back, Lee Jo-won went for another blow. But suddenly his body froze. Though Lee Jo-won did not understand what was happening, the purple-haired girl said, you are in my domain now, and started to strangle Lee Jo-won using her ability. And as Lee Jo-won was losing his consciousness, then suddenly, for some reason, she released Lee Jo-won and asked him, do you have any plan to continue what you did before? Though Lee Jo-won did not understand what she meant, she grabbed him by the face and asked, will you become the substitute for the world's #1 hero, Justice? And she told him that if the world knew about the death of Justice, who is the embodiment of heroes, it will cause large-scale panic, and also that she needed someone to buy some time while she figures out the situation. And after hearing all this, Lee Jo-won shouted, you were trying to kill me just a moment ago. What nonsense is this, and who the hell are you? And she told him that she was also a hero under the command of Justice, and her name is Chrome. And with a doubtful tone, Lee Jo-won asked, you are a hero? And she told him to check the documents that was given to him by Justice. And after checking through the documents, he found out that it was all true. And Chrome told him that she just wanted to shut him up by scaring him, and she had no plan of actually killing him. And if he did agree to become the substitute for Justice, he'll be paid 100 million per month. And after hearing about the money, Lee Jo-won got a little interested and asked her, how can I become the substitute for Justice, and what if I get caught? And she told him to not worry about getting caught, because she will be helping him throughout the way. And even after hearing all this, Lee Jo-won couldn't decide because of the high risk. Then Chrome said that she isn't going to force Lee Jo-won, but if the word gets out that the world's #1 hero has died, all of the villains who have been quiet up until now will start to act up full scale because of the fact that the most powerful hero is no longer alive, and the villains might wage war against the heroes. And in the process, countless innocent people will be dragged into it. And after listening to her, he understood that she was right, and Justice's very presence guaranteed law and order. Then Lee Jo-won started to question himself that, can he really do what Justice has been doing all this time? And Lee Jo-won also couldn't bear to see innocent people die. Even still, he was hesitant and did not say a word. And after seeing that he was unable to make a decision, Chrome told him that she made an unreasonable request, and she shouldn't have expected anything from him. And she also told him to not blabber about Justice's death. And as she was going back, she heard, "Wait!" And as she turned back, Lee Jo-won told her that after considering the compensation for risks, job security, and the confidentiality agreement, 100 million isn't enough, and he told her that he needed 200 million. And then she accepted his offer and told him to don't ever go back on his word. And thus begins the story of a copycat who became the world's #1 hero.